Hello, social studies teachers. Welcome to term 2 for social studies methods. I am starting here because I want to draw your attention to, we have a new Canvas course inside of Canvas. We're not still working off of the very same shell that we were in term 1, and the purpose of that is really cleanliness of the gradebook. I want to make sure that the 2 semesters are separated and that you start over in the gradebook for term 2. So you'll see that I changed the picture here to help you remember which one you're clicking on. If I were you, I would go up here in this courses portion and unstar the last course and star this one, so this one will populate up in your dashboard. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here, and I'm even going to turn it to student view because that will help it look right for you. So here is module 8. And you can see all of the past modules are still there. We have just transported them into another class. Even the looking to part 2, you're planning here. So we are in module 8. You'll notice that the due dates aren't due until October 31st. So this term starts this Wednesday, but the first full week doesn't start until Monday, October 25th. I believe that's the date for that Monday. And so from that point, there are 7 full weeks until the end of the term. So I'm going to populate this term a little bit earlier because during that 7-week term, or that 7-week timeline, Thanksgiving week falls into that. And so if you want to take Thanksgiving a little lighter, go ahead and work ahead a little bit. And so those will be offered to you so you can do that if you wish. So here is module 8. It is due Sunday, October 31st. So jumping into our overview here, we can see that we are talking about teaching history. You can see a little bit of my thoughts here about that, and then a little cartoon about history in schools. Here are your video directions for module 8, your module objectives, and our module activities. The next thing is your lecture materials. These lecture materials, we talk a little bit about the things that we're going to be covering. I always think it's a good idea for you to read that so you know what things are the most important in this course. What things should you really be taking note of as you're reading? After you read, please note that it is chapter 6. In term 1, the chapter numbers just nicely lined up with the module numbers, not so in term 2, and we kind of jump around a little bit. So you're actually going to be reading chapter 6, which is teaching history. After you're finished with your reading, you are going to jump into this webinar. This webinar is about teaching controversial history. And it is done by Dr. Allison Fredette, who teaches at Appalachian State University. So she's not local, and they even go into a little bit more local history, but the things that they talk about and the way that they are approaching certain topics in the history classroom can easily be transferred to your own history classroom. If you are teaching in Northern Kentucky, Southwestern Kentucky, Missouri, wherever you are, these things can easily be transferred. Something that you do need to note, this webinar is an hour long, and that is much different than the time that we normally have on these video lectures. So make sure that you plan accordingly, that you give this the full hour it needs. If you need to listen to it while you're walking, that is something you could do. You could listen to it while you're driving into school. Just do not watch it while you are driving into school. Okay, so those 2 things will be done, and then if you hop back to the reflection right here, you can see some questions that I really just want you to discuss, reflect on. As teachers, a lot of times we will, especially as students and grad students, we will do the reading. We will watch whatever needs to be done, but we're not taking time to actually reflect on how the content affects us personally and our thoughts and our feelings about it. So you'll see that a lot of these questions are not regurgitate the chapter back to me. It is, how has it impacted you? How comfortable do you feel teaching certain topics? Be honest. What tools do you feel comfortable using? Which ones do you not feel comfortable using? What would you like more information about? What goals are you going to set for yourself to be the best history teacher that you can? And then what was impactful to you through the reading and the video lecture this week? Again, this is just spending time being able to kind of reflect on who you are as an educator. Okay, so there's that. The next thing is our class discussion. You'll see here, this is the classroom episode that is found in Chapter 6 of your textbook, and it really is just a snippet of a sample conversation. I have seen conversations like this happen in schools. One teacher says, this is a great resource. Another teacher says, well, my students are too low. You're teaching the AP kids. Of course that they can do it, but my students don't have the ability to do that. So what I really want you to think about is just take a moment to kind of consider, do only those higher performing students get the best resources in the classroom? Or as an educator who is teaching a wide variety of abilities, is it our job to teach our kids how to act like historians and think like historians and how to look at resources and work through those? So that is just something to think about. And then you can see your discussion topic this week is about you using primary source documents. And so of course there's a couple questions there. Make your initial post by Wednesday of week 8. So that is the Wednesday before October 31st. And then respond to 2 other classmates by Sunday. Okay, your last thing here is your classroom application. Making history come alive is really important for student learning. I would bet that some of your most impactful history classes included something more than just a simple lecture with slides that the teacher slowly went through. Okay, they probably brought some cool things and some interesting things and some sources to help you really dive into the topic that you were talking about. So here is a really quick primary and secondary sources visual. I'm sure no one in our course needs this, but then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of curate a list of resources that could be used. So I would like for you in the discussion post, it's set up as a discussion post, to choose one historical topic that you have taught about in the past or you plan to teach about in the future. From that historical topic, you are going to find 3 primary resources that can be used in the class with your students. So you're going to list the topic, list your 3 primary sources, and then for each one of those primary sources, you're going to tell us how you will use it in your classroom, right? It's not enough just to say, like, here's a primary resource. How are you going to use it? How are you going to present it to your class? What is your class going to do with it? Are you just going to show it and be done, or are you going to have them do an activity about it or with it? And then what goals are actually coming out of that activity? So I don't want just simply, here are 3 resources. I would like, here are 3 resources. This is how I plan on using them best. This is how I plan on engaging my students. These are the goal for me to incorporate these into my classroom rather than just complete this assignment. Like other times that we have made toolboxes or lists that the whole group can use, once a topic has been used once, don't use it again, so we can have a nice list of things. You do not have to comment on anyone else's work, but I do suggest you going on to this discussion once it has been completed by everyone and stealing other people's ideas. Okay, so that is Module 8. If you have any questions, please let me know. Remember, it's due October 31st. If you had signed up for a book talk that is based in history, that is going to be due during Module 9. That's actually one of our assignments is to listen and comment on other people's book talks. So if you're thinking it was due this week, it is due next week during Module 9. If you guys need anything, please let me know, and I'm excited to start Term 2 with y'all.